This is Late Night Cage Fight. This is episode 2 of our Cageless series. We're watching the films of Ari Aster. Last time we watched Hereditary, and now we will be talking about Ari Aster's second feature film, Midsommar. This is a Nicolas Cage podcast, and this particular series is called Cageless because it's without Nicolas Cage. Films not featuring Nicolas Cage. I know, it just blows your mind. Although I do see some parallels here with Midsommar and another fantastic cult ritual murder film, Wicker Man. I'm sure we'll talk about that in this discussion.
Not the bees!
Not the bees. God, I love that line. I'm here with Cage Fighter Matt and Cage Fighter Sean. We're not cage fighters in this Cageless series. We're just some guys talking about movies that we really love and appreciate. And that being said, do be aware that this is really for fans of movies who have seen the movies. So there will be spoilers. I'll do my best to give you a heads up when spoilers are going to be revealed, but just be aware. We really want to celebrate movies that we've all seen and want to react to. Yeah. So Matt, Sean, thanks for joining me this evening. How are you?
Doing good, well. Bubby.
Excellent. For the longest time, I was calling this Midsommar, but then I recently watched the special features with Ari Aster talking, and his pronunciation was Midsommar, so I want to be accurate here. It sounds kind of silly after saying Midsummer for so long. Makes sense with that A at the end, right? Super, super fun. Like I said, cult ritual hit. Would be a great Travel Channel documentary to show. My wife actually, she watched maybe the first 45 minutes before things got really weird in the movie, and she said, I just don't believe that this kind of community could exist in Sweden. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure communities like this exist in West Virginia. So I can believe it. Yeah.
Don't do drugs, kids.
There's so much in this movie to talk about. The drug use, the food.
White people peeing on trees.
Oh, man. We're already in spoiler territory, aren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, so, Sean, you've seen this movie more than any of us. How would you describe Midsommar to someone who hasn't seen it before?
This movie is very counter to a lot of horror movies. A lot of horror movies are done in the dark. They try to hide things. This is a horror movie that tries to be scary in broad daylight.
Yes.
There's barely any nighttime in this movie at all. It does have a lot of the typical tropes of a horror movie. It's about a bunch of college students. There's, sex and drug use and, that kind of stuff. But it just goes into how different cultures, because we are not familiar with them,
right,
can be strange and unusual. And it almost is like a scary version of a fish out of water story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Or I'd also say a fairy tale as it descends into the surreal as the movie progresses.
It definitely gets very surreal.
I was so very sorry to hear about what happened.
I'm sorry.
I invited Danny to come to Sweden.
You know what she's been going through.
Christian says you've got this special week planned.
It's sort of a crazy festival. Special ceremonies and dressing up.
That sounds fun.
Unbelievable.
Welcome and happy midsummer. Skål!
What time is it?
9 p.m.
That can't be right. The sky is blue.
This is what 9 p.m. is like here.
How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's like another world.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Is it scary?
What is it?
It has special properties.
What am I going through?
We just need to acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate. I want to go.
Absolutely not.
What's happening? I don't know why you invited us.
That's why you look so guilty right now, because you know.
We only do this every 90 years. I was most excited for you to come.
When you mention the typical drugs and sex in this movie, it's really atypical, though. Yes, they're here, but the way that drugs play a part in the story and are presented, I think, is pretty unique for a film. And also, of course, the sex is unique because it's in context of the Harga, the religious cult that is the backdrop setting of the movie. Yeah, Matt, tell me about your first experience with the movie, if you would. Please.
Well, I'd love to, and I'm going to right now. So I saw this one in theaters. I was pretty pumped about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was super stoked. I
Pumped
went all
up.
by myself, and I sat like pretty close to the middle, like up towards the front. And I was just like ready to have a good time.
Yeah. Is that normally where you sit in the theater, or was this a special thing?
Yeah, if I go by myself, that's where I like to be, because you get you get a good view of the screen, but you also get a good sense of everybody around you. You get to experience the movie with people.
Oh, yeah.
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 But anyway.
I did that same thing for Paranormal Activity and regretted that, by the way.
Oh,
but
geez, yeah.
Please, please continue.
Fuck. But anyway, so, when the movie starts, this is, kind of like Sean said, I guess it kind of has that stereotypical scary movie kind of thing going on, because she's like looking at her email and her sister's all, she's on a bipolar, she like kind of a manic freak out. She's having an episode,
right?
And her sister won't respond. She's calling her and all this. She calls her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's kind of like, you can tell he's kind of fed up with something here or there. He's just like, doesn't care or whatever. And then we go to, we get to see the dude's perspective, and he's like out with his friends, and they're a bunch of, one of them's kind of a dick. And they're all like, you should leave her and stuff. So even more stereotypical, It's kind of like we're seeing that setup. But it does quickly deteriorate. I kind of love that about this movie. And Ari Aster also, You
mean how quickly?
Yeah. I think we kind of talked about that in the last podcast. If you haven't listened to that, go check it out. Hereditary.
Yes.
It quickly deteriorates from there. And I kind of love how right where it deteriorates is when Danny comes to the apartment and she's sitting there. Her boyfriend goes to do some power graphs in the bedroom with his guy.
Okay.
And,
Christian. His name's Christian.
Christian, yeah, but I'm talking about Pele.
Yeah.
He's sitting on the couch and Danny's sitting in the chair, and he's like, they're kind of just talking about what's going to go on, and he's like, well, it's probably going to seem kind of silly to you. It's like theater. And like from the moment that he says that, that's the rest of the movie becomes silly and like theater.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
It begins to act more like a play than a movie from that point on. And it's the opening scene is part of the first and second act. It's like a fresco of the ritual.
Oh yeah, you mean that fresco painting or that illustration? Yeah, I noticed that too the second time watching the movie, that if you really look at it, it's the whole story of the movie.
Exactly. And at the beginning of each act, they show you what's going to happen. You know, when they're all leaving dinner and the two British tourists are like, "What's that over there?" And they walk over to this tapestry, and it's the ritual, all the love spells when she's making the pie.
Right.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. But there is, it's an important thing to say is there's lots of interesting foreshadowing.
And it's all very blatant. It's all surface.
And it's kind of funny that we as the audience pick up on these things because obviously the script and the camera work forces us to, and many times. But the characters don't. The characters are so into themselves that they don't think about these elements that are foreshadowing some of the more horrific events to come.
With the exception of Danny.
Well, yeah, you're right. She is the one in the group she's the one that very quickly is like, they're throwing people off of cliffs and bashing their brains in. I think it's time to leave.
Don't be a buzzkill, Danny. Here, do these mushrooms.
And it brings up this interesting point about where do you draw the line looking at other cultures that are different, that have different customs than us. Obviously, these people in the movie are PhD students of anthropology, and they have an academic interest. But just for you guys, like, where would you draw the line between what is acceptable and what is not acceptable? Because for me, this is gonna be controversial, but I actually think I would be okay with that ritual. With the death ritual. What they do is when the members of the Harga community reach a certain age, they have to jump off this cliff and kill themselves. And they're not hurting anybody else. I would probably be disgusted, just as disgusted as everyone else. If I were there, I'd probably want to leave too, because it would make me question what else these people do to each other and people outside of the community. But just as somebody outside of the culture, I just might be like, well, it's like the Eskimos, right? They would send their elderly out to die on blocks of ice, if that's actually true and not a stereotype. But there are cultures that have that kind of thing.
No, I'm kind of with you. I think seeing that, like you said, I would be kind of like, but I don't think I would instantly be like, yeah, we gotta leave. I think it would more so be like when people start going missing.
Yeah.
That's when we're like,
gotta
get out of here.
Of course, in this movie, that's when it's too late, when they realize people are missing. Yeah. So
that's the thing. A lot of these rituals are based on ancient Nordic rituals.
Okay.
There's a lot of symbology in here with the geometry, a lot of the shapes.
Yeah.
So people used to do these kinds of things.
Okay. Yeah, I assumed as much. I'm not as familiar with the Norse traditions and stuff, but there are a few things that stick out to me. Some of the gestures they do with the fingers or the hands by the temples. I've seen that gesture with the Golden Dawn. They have something similar to that where they believe they're transferring energy.
That's Crowley.
Yep. And like you said, the geometry, obviously the triangle shapes and all the different shapes, I'm sure, have some meaning.
This, I think, is based on a cult of Freya, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Would have been like
Interesting.
a Viking goddess.
With the Elder Futhark runes, right? That they use.
I wouldn't put it past Odin to have a golden dong.
No.
Man,
Not at all,
I mean,
dude.
we could do a whole podcast on the customs of the Harga and what we think that they were based on, because there's just so much there, and it's obvious that they put a lot of thought into the rituals, their traditions, and making it believable. But there were some questions I had about just the decisions in keeping their traditions. Because it seems like the people in this community, number one, a lot of them are almost fully bilingual. They speak Swedish and English, and they seem like regular people in a way, but they just happen to live in this commune, at least at first, which just tells me that they're intelligent, but their society is based around this doctrine basically of incest. Their oracle is created through inbreeding. Spoiler. Big spoiler. Sorry, everyone. But it just made me question, they know that this is kind of fucked up, right? Because they're allowing the mentally handicapped oracle to just doodle in books and stuff, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, but also, before they reveal that's who the oracle is, what's his name? Josh asks somebody, is there a problem with inbreeding? And they're like, well, no, because we have a council and they decide who breeds. And that's why we bring in outsiders.
Right.
So that's a plan. They make the oracle. It's not like it just happens.
Yeah. So they truly believe that oracle is, even though they're deliberately breeding them, it's still divine, right?
Yeah. Some sick way.
Yeah. I think it's time to go home, guys. After hearing that, I think it's time to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Just some really cool sequences, much like Hereditary, that stay with you. I felt in this one, well, I guess I'll kind of talk about, Sean, your comment on how much of this movie is in really bright daylight. So there's this challenge there in, I think, creating these disturbing shots and sequences when you're seeing everything. You know, there's virtually no shadows at times. But the darkness is used to pretty strong effect. For example, Danny's nightmare sequence, where she wakes up in the middle of the night and the night in this place, Hälsingland is the name of the village, actually. It only lasts for a few hours, I believe. But so it is dark, and she hears a car starting, and she goes out, and it's her friends abandoning her. And I think there's something else kind of disturbing in that sequence that I don't remember, but I do remember the smoke coming out of her mouth as she tries to scream. So that scene stuck with me. That was kind of creepy for me.
Yeah. And it was Simon was looking out the back of the hatchback with his mouth open like he was screaming.
Oh, really?
The guy who went missing the next day. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those kind of sequences very tastefully get under my skin. Yeah.
I'm not sure if the Harga were always planning to do what they did, but Simon was kind of the one that seemed to kind of instigate a lot of those things.
So Simon and Connie, they're the English couple that they meet there in the commune.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there's Christian, Mark, and Josh.
Josh was okay.
Yeah, this
right?
is what
Mark is the tree pisser.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Josh is the guy who went there. He got everybody to go on
Yeah.
the trip. He's like, I'm going here to study this, and dude, you should leave your girlfriend and come with me. But then Danny came to some bar one night and somebody let it slip, and she's like, what the fuck? And then
Josh is also Chidi Anagonye from The Good Place.
Okay. Haven't seen it. Is it good? Is it a good place?
It is a good place. If you are a fan of Kristen Bell and Ted Danson, I would highly recommend that show.
Oh yeah, I love Ted Danzig. Okay, so another disturbing sequence, Matt hit on it earlier, is it's actually at the beginning. We find out that Danny's bipolar sister has done something pretty terrible, we assume, to her parents and herself. It's kind of a strange... It's weird how it all seems to have played out, right? Because she's basically attached this hose to the car or the cars in the garage of her parents' home and killed her parents, right, by the monoxide as well. But then she's got the hose attached to a mask on her face.
No, she duct taped it to her jaw.
Yeah, I mean, is that really possible?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah?
So it was like super intricate setup. Also, the last message she sent to her sister was, it's probably not verbatim, but it was something like, I can't anymore. It's so dark now. Mom and Dad are coming with me too. And then we see this scene where it's just this music, this fucking insane, like droney, spooky music. And then the brake lights or hazard lights flashing. And then you see two hoses coming off the exhaust pipes of these cars. And then the camera follows the hoses through the house. Yeah. And there's the cops and shit. And then
I just remember that just being like one shot.
Yeah, one hose is like under the parents' door, and she duct taped all the seals and shit, and then put the other one in her mouth.
Also, I think what Sean was getting at earlier was kind of similar to Hereditary, is there are, I think, clues or hints in the movie that may suggest that there's manipulation happening before this trip, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, look in the bedroom and you see there's a picture of Danny. I saw the second time and I noticed it. There's a picture of Danny with a flower bouquet over the photo. Yeah. Which could just be foreshadowing, or it could be part of the story. That's, I guess, just the debate or dialogue you can have.
Well, and also Pele, the picture he draws of her for her birthday.
Yeah, you feel so bad for Danny through much of this film, because it seems that the people she really wants to care about her don't, and never can, never will. Then the people that she is most repulsed by show affection to her.
I felt like her and Josh were the only somewhat likable people in this movie. I mean, Christian, he just from the beginning of the film, he's just so disrespectful of just Danny's feelings.
And it's kind of...
And he...
Go ahead.
He really only stays with her just because her sister and parents die.
Right. But before that, his motivation was largely sexual, right?
Yeah, it seemed like it.
You have that scene with them. It's the first scene of the group of guys at the restaurant, and there's this really sexual portrait behind them. You can just kind of feel the sex in this scene. They have the waitress come serve them, and she's, they're checking her out. And I think that was intentional, because later, another big spoiler, but the sex in the movie occurs when Christian is pretty much forced, I would say forced, to mate with one of the young Harga in a very interesting ritual. So what I'm saying is he finally kind of gets what he wanted elsewhere in a uncomfortable, disturbing, perverted kind of way.
I mean, if you guys have never had sex in a group of, just with a bunch of old women watching you, I mean, try it. 'Cause nothing like it.
I'm not knocking it, man. I'm not.
I would disagree a little bit. I don't think that he was forced at all. I think it's important he chose to go.
That's why I said it. I wanted somebody to push back on that. I'm not exactly certain.
Yeah.
So I think that he chose to put himself in that situation, but once he finally was there, he was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Right.
This is really weird.
Well, this can lead into our discussion of drugs, because one of my biggest problems with the way these characters behave is with the drugs. And I mean, they take the mushrooms right after they get to Sweden, before they get to the village with, all these cool people that they're meeting. I mean, it's believable to me, but I find that such a tremendous risk to take a psychedelic drug, around people that you don't know. Yeah, and then that part where Christian, he wants access to the Harga to study for his PhD, and he's kind of battling this out with Josh at the same time. And so he's willing to do some questionable things to get access to that information. He's basically told by one of the elders that he's been chosen to breed, and that if he does this, he's going to be the only person outside of the community to know about this ritual, which is what he wants. But of course, he has to go through with having sex with this young girl. And this is pretty close to the end of the movie, guys, so a lot has happened. But in his kind of indecision, he's given this tea that is strongly suggested that there's a drug in it, and he just knocks it back. I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? You're trying to make a very, very important decision right now, and you're gonna do that?
Especially when multiple friends have gone missing by this point.
Yeah, I think that's, you guys talked about or maybe it was me, how the movie just descends into this surrealism, and that's part of it. It's the characters are now in the surreal world where they make irrational decisions instead of rational ones like they would in our world. Because I'm thinking of, Matt, you said that there's that really important switch, which I hadn't thought about before, at the beginning with Pele, right? And just everything changes after that. And then there's a real obvious transition too when they're on their way to the Hälsingland, and the camera actually rolls, and they're driving upside down, right? Because the camera's upside down. So that's a big shift right there. And I think the rules of the script of the world change at that point. I'm willing to, I guess, let my reason go, because these people are out of their element, and you don't really know how you'd react or what you'd do. But yeah, what did you guys think about the drug use in it? I actually thought that the visuals were pretty awesome.
I really liked the effect that they would use whenever they were tripping. There was almost like this, I don't even know how to describe it, this kind of this filter on the footage that it would almost look like wiggly.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Or a pulsating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did that a lot with later on with Danny when she was wearing the flower crown. Was all surrounded by flowers and everything to kind of meld her flesh with the plants.
Yeah.
And it really looks trippy.
So is this a movie about a woman an abused woman being liberated, or is this a movie about an abused woman giving in to her psychosis and letting it take over? What do you think? Or neither?
Or both.
Or both. I'll tell you, the second time I watched the movie, now that I knew what was coming, I thought that it was funnier in parts, and intentionally so. Some of the disturbing shit I think is supposed to be kind of funny or lighthearted. Because if you think about it, if you were a member of the Harga, let's say you're from that community, they do this crazy Midsommar, murder celebration, and you know what they got to do for this 90-year celebration. And it's more like a love story. To them, it's a happy thing. And because death and torture and abuse and all that stuff isn't a negative, obviously.
What they did with a lot of the corpses of the various characters, it kind of reminds me of one of the Dexter novels.
Okay.
Which they had a pair of homosexual serial killers who would just make artwork out of dead bodies.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, if that happens in real life, you're dealing with somebody pretty disturbed.
Yikes.
Yeah, should we talk about some of that? I don't know. I guess there was a dude. I don't have the whole story in front of me or all of the details, so some of this could be incorrect. The numbers may be a little off, but this guy who, and we're talking Japan here. This stuff happens in Japan sometimes, people, so I'll probably get attacked for this, but a few years ago, this guy got arrested not far from where I'm living now in Kanagawa Prefecture. I won't say where exactly, you can Google it. But what this guy did was he went on the internet. He found people through Twitter and what other social networks and message boards. He found people who wanted to die, and he empathized with them and said, "Hey, I'll help you die. I'll help you escape your pain." And he would lure them to his apartment, and then he would sexually assault them and murder them brutally, chop up their body parts and keep them in refrigerated containers underneath the floor of his apartment. We're talking 9 people from the ages of 15 to, I want to say, 30s.
Wow.
Yeah, around...
A little bit of telltale heart in there, huh?
I mean, dude, they found this guy, and then they found all the ice boxes, and God, I just happened upon this story, and I'm just like, where do these people come from? How does your brain get to that point? It's just crazy. But, thank you, Ari Aster, for making me think about this evil shit in real life. Appreciate it.
Life's great.
Yeah, I mean,
2020, everyone.
So, I guess we could just say, well, what's better then? Is that better or worse than a community that every 90 years they got to lure outsiders there so they can diversify the gene pool and murder them for their ritual?
The way I interpreted the ending, I thought that Danny almost was letting go of her past, we'll say, community, who was very, did not care about her at all. And she found a new home with the Harga. While they may be brutal, they still accepted her and respected her.
Yeah.
And,
totally.
Allowing them to basically complete the ritual with Christian was her letting go of her past life.
Yeah. So, biggest spoiler of the movie, very end, we discover that they need a set number of people for this sacrifice to... who is it exactly? Is it a god? Gods? Just nature?
I don't think they really say.
Yeah, it's just, I guess it's just what they do, tradition. Every 90 years, they have to burn down this barn. The funny thing for me was, I've seen the original Wicker Man, and I've seen the Nick Cage Wicker Man. We can talk more about that, but, I'm thinking, well, I wonder how this is going to differentiate itself from these other pagan cult movies where they burn some asshole at the end. And then as they burn Christian at the end, I'm like, oh my God, Wicker Man 3. It wasn't quite that extreme, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, of course, they're gonna burn somebody alive.
It was pretty awesome, though. He was a bear.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was awesome.
And the scene right before that was even better, because it's like, it's some dude, some guy, and he's like, so kids, you want to make sure when you're cutting the guts out, you don't cut the guts.
Yeah.
You want to run your knife in along like this, and then you see him grab the guts and dump them in a fucking bucket, and then it zooms in on Christian paralyzed in the corner watching.
Oh God.
And then they fucking sew him into the bear.
Oh.
How terrifying would that be to just have people doing stuff like that to you and you just can't
I tell you
move?
what, whoever, you know what, Ari Aster and you folks, what made this film, good on you for all the drugs you did, because you nailed it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. You mean a bad trip?
No drug use.
Right. I mean, right down to the difference in a feel between acid and mushrooms, or having like a really out there trip, like on DMT or something.
Yeah.
I see. Like, I've had similar trips to that where I thought, more or less somebody had sewed me into a bear and was about to set me on fire. Like
that seems pretty scary.
Oh man,
yeah.
It can be like that. But it's also just so silly and funny.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is scarier than the furry community, so.
I would compare it to sleep paralysis. If you've experienced that, you wake up, but you can't move.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
Yeah, it is. It's just the difference is you're in a real dead bear, and they're burning you alive. So just a little bit of a difference there, but you get the idea.
You remember the first time the bear appears in the movie?
Yeah, it's like they're
like, hey, are we gonna recognize the bear? And someone's just like, it's a bear.
Yeah, I love that. That actually reminded me of Mandy when they the tiger.
Yeah.
The dude has a tiger, but the tiger never does anything.
It just escapes.
It escapes, yeah. I guess that's a metaphor.
Well, they were going to have a spin-off about the tiger, but, that didn't pan out.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Nice. I just, it's funny to me, the things that these people overlook for the sake of trusting Pele is a good guy, for their selfish motivations of telling the Harga's story to the world and becoming famous and all that. I mean, that's kind of how I saw it, at least for Christian. He was just so desperate because Christian hadn't picked his thesis, right? And then Josh chose his. They were like schoolboys, man. Well, I want to do my thesis on the Harga too. So we can either work together or I guess we'll just each write our own thesis.
Josh had decided long before.
Right.
That's what he went there for.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, that was like his thing. It was like his hobby.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was kind of shitty for Christian.
Yeah, Christian he's just generally lost and has no sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
You can tell by his loose neck on his t-shirt.
Did you find it funny in a sick kind of way? His name is Christian, so at the end of the movie, the pagans burn Christian.
Mm-hmm. Pretty dope, huh?
It's pretty metal.
Yeah, dude.
It's a pretty metal
I really
movie.
didn't think that anyone besides like Josh was believable as a doctoral candidate.
Yeah, that's
everyone else it's just awful.
That was my wife's observation too in the first 45 minutes. She said, "These people are graduate students, doctoral level?" I said, "Yeah, but they're anthropologists, they're art majors. You know how they are, what they do." She's like, "All right, I didn't know that."
I thought this movie was really great for anybody that is into set design. They did a really, really good job just building the village and, the placement of everything and all the decor and just how traditional Swedish mythology is just used as imagery throughout the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that was one of what I thought was one of the most fascinating things was just, because I mean, this wasn't really a culture that I was very familiar with.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit familiar with like Norse mythology after playing like God of War, but I never really knew about, things like this in Sweden.
You mean like communities where they murder people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard they're really common.
It really changes my opinion of Swedish metal bands. I used to respect them. Now I know they're just trying to lure me in with their music.
This is just what socialism leads to, right?
Oh yeah, of course. How about, man, all these dudes make some pretty terrible decisions. Josh, who is the guy that you say that is the most respectable of the bunch, which probably isn't saying much, he sneaks into the holy temple to take a picture with his phone of their holy text after being told that it's sacred and you cannot do that by the elder. After watching a ritual where the elderly are forced to kill themselves. I mean, dude, what balls this guy has. What happens to him? He gets bashed. Yeah, it was kind of an overreaction, right? To kill him like that. It wasn't very nice.
I mean, they said that they never told him that he couldn't like use a scanner. Should have just like whipped out his PC tower and his flatbed. And
it would be funny if it would have been funny if you find out that he had snuck a drone in with his bags and he fires up a drone and flies it into the temple. That would be so dumb. I love it.
It's like they first get there and Pele just hands Josh a small piece of paper. And he said, "What, is this my mantra?" "No, it's the Wi-Fi password."
I want to finish our discussion of the story with just some questions I had because you guys might have answers. So I'm just not clear on a couple things. One was, well, the one I have about Danny is now that she is the May Queen, does she then just become a member of the community until she lives out her lifespan and then has to end it on the rocks like it seems like they all have to at that age?
I would say so.
All right.
I think some of the ending was meant to be left up to interpretation.
Okay.
Oh man, we didn't even talk about the scene with the May Queen festival. That was getting dizzy.
Yeah, very well done.
They just start doing this dance where they're dancing for just hours.
Yeah, I watched the behind the scenes. They showed a clip of them filming that, and they actually created this or built this rig that goes around the pole with a camera on it and would spin it, and the actors would have to follow the camera as they spun around and did the dance. So really, really interesting camera work to achieve that.
Yeah, Ari Aster is always he comes up with some very unique shots. Like even at the beginning of the movie, I thought that the shot of just Danny crying while Christian was holding her when she finds out about her sister, I thought that was a really difficult shot to watch.
Yeah. That's one difference too. One kind of, I can't say parallel, but you notice in the first part of the movie, before they go to Sweden, there's lots of close-ups and still shots. Then, when we go to Midsommar, when we go to Helsingland, you get a lot of the wide angle shots. You see a lot more of those. It's such a shift in focus.
You know, I noticed that the scene at the beginning was very similar to the scene in Hereditary when they find out that what's her name dies at the beginning.
Yeah, Charlie?
Charlie. Oh, I don't think I explained it very clear, but Mark pees on the ancestral tree where they, I believe, put the ashes of all their dead.
Yeah.
And there's this one guy who's really pissed off.
Yeah, and they make light of it. It's funny. He's super pissed off at you, right? What's that guy's deal? These characters are so dumb sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like this guy just told you you just peed on like all of their ancestors.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like, oh, sorry, bro.
It's just a tree, man. You got plenty of them. Just knock another one down.
I didn't know. What a typical American attitude.
So these actors, what I thought was super interesting, Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, Will Poulter, the guy who played Mark, all these actors are actually non-American. I don't know if they all come from the same non-American countries, but they all have an accent. So it's just it blows my mind because I don't know. I just find it interesting when actors are that good with accents that they convince you that they are from your native country. I totally believe Mark. I totally believe that, these were American actors. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was...
You got to get like British actors because you can pay them in like a sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why do you think Marvel Studios gets so many British actors?
There we go. Yeah. And crumpets.
Mm-hmm.
Will Poulter, he's an English actor recognized for his performance as Lee Carter in Son of Rambo. He was also in Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I bet he wasn't an asshole in that one.
I didn't know that Son of Rambo was a movie.
Yeah. Florence Pugh is an English actress. Okay. Lady Macbeth, 2016, Outlaw King, Fighting with My Family. You've heard of it, never seen it. And I know she is up and coming in Black Widow. I saw that trailer. And in Black Widow, she has a Russian accent, Eastern European. I'm not that familiar with the character, so forgive me.
Who's she supposed to play in Black Widow?
Yelena Belova.
Oh, shit. She's gonna be an Avenger then.
Yeah, she's definitely fighting in it.
Yeah, she's it's rumored that she's going to take on the mantle of Black Widow after that movie.
Okay.
If it ever comes out.
My theory is she's going to steal the show in that movie. I think she's going to be the one that really shines because she's just a hell of an actress, and she even stood out to me in the trailer. I was like, I recognize that actress that I can't deny because they have such presence for being a smaller person. And
I've heard that she's very good in that. I mean, everything I've seen from that movie, she does a very good job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these are not your typical A-list actors, I believe. These are, tried and true stage English actors, I'm assuming. They really, really know their craft. So even, I think even William Jackson Harper. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's the one American. Yeah, I heard him talking, and I was like, okay, that dude's from the U.S. Totally.
It's funny, though, because in The Good Place, which most people will know him from, he plays like somebody from, I think, like South Africa.
Oh, yeah? And I'm sure he does a damn good job.
He's really funny.
Oh, is he?
That's a good show. It's It's by the people that did Parks and Rec.
Oh, God, I got to check it out. I've just been off the radar with watching stuff.
It's all on Netflix.
Nice.
Yeah, it's basically just about Kristen Bell's character, like, dies and gets sent to heaven, but she finds out that she was not supposed to be there.
Okay.
And William Jackson Harper plays this, like, really studious, like, guy that is supposed to be her soulmate. And yeah, it's a good show. Solid.
I did want to mention last podcast, the last Cageless episode, I mentioned this movie that Ari Aster had stated was a huge influence for him, called The Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. In 1989, it's called a crime drama film, if you want to call it that, by Peter Greenaway. It's got Helen Mirren in it. I did finally watch it. It's a hard movie to track down. It may be streaming somewhere. You're the master of that, Sean, finding out what is streaming where.
I can look.
But I actually got the Mexican Blu-ray for cheap. So I was able to watch it. And I can see why it's a hard movie to find. Ari Aster loves it, so there's some disturbing stuff in it. But I bring it up because I think Midsommar is... It's Ari Aster's the Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. It's his ode to that movie, particularly the dining sequences. So if you do ever have the chance to watch it, and it's something we may talk about in the future. I don't know if we really want to do an episode on it, but it's a movie not a lot of people today know about, but people from the 80s, they do remember, because I did a post about it and people were like, oh yeah, I remember that movie when it came out, and it was pretty fucked up.
You can watch it on Peacock.
Oh, Peacock. What's that?
NBC's new streaming service. It's free, I guess.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
It just has... Oh, man, I don't know. You should watch it sometime. I don't want to tell you anything about it, but the important takeaway from the movie is it's about dark, disturbing things, but it's funny. To me, it's a comedy with some pretty heavy elements in it. So sorry, I'll spoil Midsommar, but I won't spoil the Cook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. I want to have to force everyone else to hunt this one out in the wild, but it's definitely worth a watch. And it was super interesting knowing that Ari Aster was influenced by it. So what do you guys think will be the legacy of Midsommar? How do you think it's going to be remembered? Do you think it's going to be the be-all, end-all pagan folk horror movie?
No, I mean, there's always going to be something better down the road. It's definitely a milestone, for sure, though. This movie's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
and I think with all the subtle elements, it's kind of like rewatchable as fuck, too. So
yeah, that is one great thing.
I've seen it 5 times.
It's like it's funnier the next time you see it.
Yeah, man, it is. It really is. Once you have all the information, it is kind of funny.
I do think that this movie may be a little slower than Hereditary. I actually watched both Hereditary and Midsommar with the same group of friends, and they liked Hereditary. They were not into this one.
Okay, because they thought it was too slow?
Yeah, they just thought it was boring.
I see. I mean,
yeah,
I get it.
I do think that Hereditary is still a better movie. I'm not sure if you guys would agree. I personally like Hereditary more, but I do really like what this movie does with, just from a filmmaking standpoint. I feel like it's just shot and crafted beautifully.
Yeah, I agree with you, mainly because I could connect more with the characters in Hereditary, whereas in Midsommar, I feel the location itself was more of a character, which is great for the movie, but the characters, many of them are off-putting. And it's great for the movie. I'm not saying that that's bad, I just didn't connect with them. I was looking forward to them getting killed.
There's just this thing with some horror movies that the characters just have this sense of being unlikable.
Uh-huh.
And it's something that I've just noticed kind of starting in the early 2000s, and it just kind of makes, I don't want to say it makes the movies cheap.
Okay.
But the characters just don't feel as believable to me. And I kind of get a similar vibe to the characters in this movie.
Yeah. But again, it's probably intentional because of how this movie changes into the surreal genre, if you will. The characters are intentionally pushed to their max to become kind of like one-dimensional, stereotyped versions of real people in a way when they enter Midsommar, the wonderful land of Oz. One movie that was probably an influence in some way is Alejandro Yodorowski's The Holy Mountain, which is a classic surreal fantasy movie from 1973 out of Mexico. It was one of those weird movies I used to have on a hard drive. I'd watch every once in a while because I just didn't know what the hell I was watching. But some of the visuals from that movie, you can see parallels in Midsommar. It's very strange. But I recommend it. Yeah, I am a fan of that filmmaker. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. See, this is why you got to write things down. Another movie I thought about watching this, Sean. It's kind of an out there comparison, but it's the horror movie Candyman. You remember Candyman from late 80s, early 90s?
I've heard of it. I haven't actually seen it, though.
Clive Barker.
Yeah, I've seen that shit.
Oh.
Yeah, your boy from Hellraiser.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised I haven't seen it.
Oh, man. Well,
I'll have to give that a watch.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil it then, but when you watch it, think about Midsommar, especially how it all plays out. But they're actually remaking Candyman. Actually, it's already been remade. I don't know when they're releasing it. I guess I could give it a goog. But I think they've already, shot it and everything. But Candyman it's like a, racial, social message kind of horror story. And going back and rewatching it, I kind of watched it when I was a little too young to get it, and it probably messed me up a little bit. But I did watch it this year again and was able to pick up on the social part of it, because the Candyman is an African-American legend. Yeah, and it has to do with, what do you call it? When the wealthy people move in and kick all the low-income people out.
Gentrification.
Gentrification is in there. It's interesting. It's a really interesting script, and I'm kind of glad that they're bringing it back to life now. And it will be interesting to see what the new one is like. But yeah, if you get time, go watch the original Candyman and let me know if you pick up on any similarities.
It is streaming on Sling, Sci-Fi, and Fubo.
Is that the Fubo? Is that the Furby streaming service?
Yeah, it has the entire Furby cinematic universe.
Oh, or is it Fubu Jeans? That's going back.
Oh, that is.
And once again, in Midsommar, we have cinematography by Paweł Podrzelski. So a big thank you for making this film look as amazing as it does. All the producers. We had art direction by Saba Lodi, Hungarian, supervising art director, and the Utah unit, Richard T. Olson. And just thank you to all the cast and crew for Midsommar. and as well as A24 Productions. Solid movie. And I thank you guys for watching it again and having the conversation in the second episode of Cageless without Nicolas Cage at all, although he was a bear in Wicker Man. We haven't talked about that.
He was. And he committed assault.
He did. And he was burned alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
So, lessons not learned, apparently. That's why we have these groups out there who are trying to remind us, don't mess with nature. Otherwise, we're going to burn your ass. Put you in bears.
And the rest of you.
That's why bears don't have gender reveal parties.
Oh, I'm so pumped, guys. I hope you guys are around with me because I know it's down the road, but to talk about Nicolas Cage and Wicker Man. I really want to make that memorable.
Yeah.
That one I've actually seen.
Good. Then you're a changed man, just like us. All right. Well, this was our discussion of Midsommar. Thank you for listening, as always. You can check us out at nickcagefight.com. Check out our main series. We are going through every Nicolas Cage film and having them battle. Thank you, guys. I'm out of here.